This podcast is brought to you by the School of Advanced Study, University of London. All of our podcasts are available from our website, www.sas.ac.uk.
Right, well, I've written a little essay based on our discussion. If it makes no sense to those who are present, then
You couldn't shut up.
if it bears no relation to what you heard, then you can say so later. Anyway, I'm a historian, so analysing poetry isn't what I do every day, but I do it sometimes because historians use all kinds of sources. I mention this partly because I think always one of the great challenges of trying to communicate across disciplines, which is a very important and necessary thing to do, is that different disciplines speak in different languages. We draw on different assumptions, concepts, bodies of knowledge, and communication can be genuinely difficult, and I know from experience how hard that can be. But nevertheless, I found the group's discussion of the poem really much more interesting, thought-provoking than I must say I'd feared. Because on first reading, I found the poem rather opaque and baffling, whereas the discussion made it, I think, much clearer, and I found it enlightening and thought-provoking. The poet opens the poem the letter to her daughter, by reminding her daughter that when she was small, and obviously the daughter isn't small any longer, though we don't know how much older she is. When she was small, she once said that life was like being in a queue, standing in line from birth to death. And this metaphor of the line runs through the poem. One theme of it is the poet wants to use the metaphor and the letter to warn her daughter that life, in fact, is not a simple, unproblematic line. But in fact, a more realistic image for life might be a skein, a tangle of wool. That life is more difficult, more complex than standing in line from birth to death. There are a lot of nasty things can happen along the way. And she makes an analogy between the letters she's writing and that written by a male poet to his children, recalling a painting by Goya in which male soldiers are massacring other men. And the father uses this Goya image to warn his children of the horrors that life can hold. But she goes on to reflect then on what guidance should a mother give to her child, in this case to a daughter. She reflects on the mother's instinct to want to protect her child from the horrors of life. But then she writes, because I love you, I can't do that. She has to be realistic about what life can hold and not seek to protect her. And she's explicit about how a mother should try to avoid the danger that I think all mothers are aware of seeking to control a child's life, to direct it too much, and that she must try to alert her to the dangers and the complexities of life, but without scaring her or disabling her. And so there's an interesting reflection on this very real dilemma. And the poem ends with a metaphor conveying how she sees the ideal maternal role, which is that of raising a child like she nurtured a bulb that her daughter had given her, a flower bulb, and which has flowered a year later. She gave it earth, that is, she gave it grounding. She gave it a little like watering, and a balcony where it could wander freely, which I think is a very evocative memoir of how a child should be firmly rooted, but brought up able to challenge life's challenges and complexities and learn to make her own way. The other intertwined sense in which she uses the line metaphor is that of a line of genealogy, of knowledge and skills being passed from one generation to another. And just as the male poet wrote about male things to his children, about war, killing people, she as a mother describes herself passing on female knowledge and skills to her daughter. Immediately after discussing the male poet, she describes how she taught her daughter to make creme brulee and describes the kitchen as the place where the female generations intersect. And at the same point, she weaves in a reference to an older woman poet to whom she herself was indebted in her own poetic work. That's Emily Dickinson. And we speculated in the discussion that here she was representing a female poetic genealogy, a genealogy of women poets writing about things identified as female, cooking and kitchens, as a challenge to the dominant male genealogy in literature and male dismissiveness of female themes in poetry, that it's as acceptable to write poems about the things women do as it is about the things that men do, about cooking as well as about killing. So here's a poem about the duties of a mother and a reflection on how a mother can bring up her daughter and how best advise her. What is the best of the guidance a mother can give a daughter to help her live her life? It's about the mother-daughter relationship and also a feminist challenge to male authority in literature. So I think it seems to me to be doing a number of interesting and important things and conveying those things actually much more economically than we can do in many other forms. I mean, whole books are written about all of these things that convey rather less. Anyway, that's what I got out of the discussion. My colleagues may have got totally different things. Thank you.
Thank you very much.